Well, hello there. Julian Page, welcome to the Red Couch Talk.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Julian, you and we met several years back when you introduced your work in Tanzania with what is now called Mikuyu Tanzania to
Yep.
us at Relocate the Profit organizations. I was always so impressed when you shared more about your work, and I'm
Thank you.
so honored that you take the time for this talk with me.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Julian, is there anything people should know about you before we dive deeper? Maybe a fun fact, something that people won't be able to read about you on the internet, something that, you want to share with our audience.
Oh, wow. A fun fact. Um, I'm an idiot, I think, is the first place. You know, we're all making it up as we go along, and I embrace the fact that I'm learning every single day.
Uh-huh.
And, things get better because we make mistakes, and I don't fear mistakes.
Well,
I like them because it means that we're trying and we can still do better and better and better.
sounds amazing, especially in the context that you're working in, also in the
Yeah,
context of intercultural learning. I love that. Um, One of my favorite trainers, who's over 90 now, his name is Tiagi, he taught me that sentence, we build the plane as we fly it.
exactly.
Maybe
And
that's
that's how
something
I
you want to
feel.
tell your team.
That's how I feel all the time because there are
Yeah,
no solutions. If there were solutions, all of the work we've been doing would have been done by somebody already.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And you're solving like real world problems in opposition to a lot of the things that I sometimes feel I'm dabbling in. You have a real world problem that you're contributing towards. What got
It's
you into
interesting.
this?
It's they're problems that um, businesses have failed to address and politicians have failed to
Yeah,
address. So they're problems that have fallen through the cracks that we
yeah,
then have to pick up and work out, well, how do we do this?
yeah. So
And that's basically how we start.
tell me a bit more, Julian, about why you got into supporting people in Tanzania before you talk about what you exactly do, but what is your driving force there?
Well, I have done a fair bit of traveling in my
Hmm.
youth. So I first went to Tanzania when I was 18,
Hmm.
and just absolutely loved the freedom that I felt whilst traveling around. I went back to Tanzania a number of times since then, and and I think that just placed itself in my heart at some point. But I remember 25 years ago seeing a comic relief video clip of a 3-year-old girl living on the streets in Dar es Salaam,
Hmm.
and she was living with a 1-year-old sister,
Hmm.
and the 1-year-old sister couldn't walk because rats had eaten her feet.
Oh, goodness.
And my brother had kids, around that sort of time. And suddenly it became very personal that how on earth would my nephews survive in a situation like that? And it was, of course, they couldn't, they wouldn't. They would either die or get taken away by baddies. And suddenly it was kind of, no, 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 that's not right. That shouldn't be allowed. And then when the opportunity came, I kind of decided to retrain so that I could do something about that. And it turns out that I'm not actually working with street children in Dar es Salaam, but I'm trying to prevent people from becoming poverty statistics that then move to the big cities because they have to. So if I can keep people at home and keep poverty away from that and improve people's lives at home, improve their educational chances, then they won't get in that situation.
That is also something I found really impressive about your work. I have two questions though before I ask you a bit more about your work. You have a Quaker education. What does that mean?
Oh, so Quakers is a religious group,
Yeah.
and they believe that there is that of God in everybody. That means everybody has goodness within them. You just have
Uh-huh.
to tap
Uh-huh.
into it. But they very much believe in allowing you to interpret the world for yourself. Whereas in many religions, you have somebody at the front telling you what to believe,
Yeah.
and you sit there and take it. In Quakerism, you're asked to challenge those things for yourself.
Uh-huh.
What does it mean? So it creates a kind of a confidence in you to be able to question things. And we question authority all the time. We question everything to make sure that we understand it. And so I think the Quakerism became unconsciously part of my being, because I'm not good at going to Quaker meetings. I'm not good at sitting still for an hour. I'm not good at sitting still for 20 minutes. Um, but I believe in that whole ethos of stewarding people, stewarding the environment, not dictating to people, but allowing people the chance to speak, be heard, sit down. Then, as a Quaker, you listen to it, you process it in some way, and then you would feed back your
Mm.
thoughts. And there's no suggestion that your thoughts are the only avenue, but it's
Mm.
an avenue. So the Quakers had a big influence.
It sounds to me like almost like very like heart-driven, value-driven work that you do,
Yes.
and that it all comes from your basic value system. And I was intrigued by your holistic model as well, that you use in your work. It contains collaboration, consultation, participation, and co-production. And you founded what is now called Mikuyu Tanzania almost 20 years ago already. I wasn't even aware of that, Julian. So can you tell us a bit more about, how you work there, what exactly, your NPO does, and also how it connects with us at Relocate the Profit.
So, what do? We ask ourselves, the first question we ask ourselves is, what are the barriers that prevent young people accessing a quality education? And the word access, sometimes is taken very literally about transport. How do they physically get to school? But it's not really about that. It's about saying, well, if you're at school, are the toilets okay? And the toilets are probably not okay. So therefore, you have a problem accessing education because you're frightened to use the toilets, especially for girls when they're menstruating.
Mm.
They might not want to come to school at all. So there's access issues related to equality. The boys' toilets might have everything that boys want, but they don't have the same for girls. So there's things like that. Then there's things like, well, if you've got 100 kids in a classroom, you might be physically in a space to learn, but can a teacher really teach 100 kids in a classroom with one textbook between 10 or 15 people? No, you're not accessing a quality education. You're basically in some kind of crash system where you're allowed to be there so that your parents can get on and do some work. So it's childcare. But we want those kids to get an education. So things like toilets, things like classrooms, are essential, basic things. But then there's also water. If a school hasn't got water, what are
Mm.
they going to drink? How are they going to clean the school? How are they going to clean the toilets? How are they going to wash their hands? Some really basic stuff needs to be put in place, because you don't want your children in school walking for an hour and then walking back again with 20 litres of water from the river. That's not a good use of their time. They're there to get education. So we put in water. We collect the rainwater.
Mhm, mhm.
Then there's things like, well, if you're hungry at school, a couple of things happen. One, you're going to be focused on being hungry and not listening to what the teacher's saying. You may get very tired. You may get very irritable and irritating. If you're permanently not getting enough food, your physical body isn't going to get the nutrition that is needed for your personal development, your brain development. So you're not going to be able to retain the information or process the information. Um, so we look at that and we say, well, the kids need to be fed, clearly. And I've had this discussion with one of our donors who said, "Well, I'll feed the kids." And I said, "No, no, no. It's got to be more than just feeding the kids. The community, the parents have to feed their kids, because otherwise you're creating a dependency on
Yeah.
external people providing all the food."
Yeah.
So now we try and support the schools to build market gardens to provide some of the food. But we also say to the parents, look, it's really important. If you want to work with us, you have to provide the food for your kids. You have to literally bring in the food. We'll store it in the schools, but you bring in the food. You pay a small amount of money to the chef to cook it every day, and then your kid will be healthy and strong and it's amazing to see how that works, because most of the parents, of course, are contributing. Some of them are not able to contribute because maybe the child is living with grandparents and they're not able to farm enough food for everyone, or the rains fail and there's not enough.
Hmm.
But we said to the community, how do you think you can solve this problem? And it took a whole afternoon of debate with the community physically there. And the solution came from a very, unexpected place when an old man stood up and said, "I want you all to think about what happens if you don't educate your children, if they're not fed. They might, in 10 years' time, become the troublemakers in our community."
Hmm. Hmm.
So by not feeding them, by not giving them the education, we are just moving the problem down the line. So as a community, we need to feed the kids. So if parents can give 102% of the food, then that 2% from everyone can help feed the kids who can't actually afford, or whose parents can't afford to make the contributions. And they know who are the poor families and who aren't. It's not, we don't.
Yeah.
And so they solve the problem themselves. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful to see. So all of the kids get fed, and it's all maize and beans, pigeon peas. And then the market garden provides the extra fruit and the extra greens to make sure that the nutritional value is there. But
So
it's
it's
a
like a
really small
whole
part.
like ecosystem basically that you're
Yes.
building. Uh-huh.
And so
That's
so when you're trying to deal with the barriers of education, there are so many barriers that tackling one of them, if we just tackled the food, that wouldn't necessarily give the kids the education they need.
yeah.
If you tackle just the toilets, that's not going to give the kids the education they need. If you just tackle the classrooms or the books, you've got to tackle all of them at the same time. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so that's our kind of model. What are all of the barriers? And let's tackle all of them at once. I mean, you don't, when you're looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, you don't just tackle one of them. The
Yeah.
countries are trying to tackle all of them
Yeah.
because all of them are interconnected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hmm. Um, Julian, I remember that when we prepared for this conversation, you mentioned the white savior complex. And I just remembered in an interview recently that I had something like this when I was in my 30s when I went to India for the first time for an outsourcing project. In hindsight, I'm very embarrassed about it, but it's like it was an eye opener basically. What are some of your biggest learnings that you had over the last 20 years working in this space?
Well, it's been an interesting journey because I didn't know about saviorism. It wasn't a term when we started.
Uh-huh.
Um, and clearly, I went out because I wanted to help.
Hmm.
Clearly, I didn't want to be a savior or anything like that. I just
Yeah.
wanted to help. Um, and we spent a number of years helping. And it was after a couple of years that we just thought, "Do you know what? This isn't the right way to do this. I'm just giving. I'm becoming a donor. I'm creating dependency."
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
completely flipped our model and
Yeah.
started working with the community to say, "So what is it that you would like? What is it that you need? Why do you need it? And
Uh-huh.
how can you contribute to that process? What's stopping you from getting what you want for yourselves?"
Yeah.
And then we just become a small part of helping them to bring about the changes that they want. And that was a fundamental shift for me in me and within the organization. And then this last year, we took it to the next level, which is the co-production level.
Yeah.
And the co-production is slightly different in that we are now working with the local government
Okay.
as well as the local people. So we're sitting down, we have two levels of co-production meetings. We have the community co-production where we sit with the village leaders, the ward leaders, and we talk about day-to-day needs, problems, challenges, and they're feeding it all back to us. We then take those needs and take it to the town level and say, look, these are the challenges that some of the communities are facing. These are some of the things that we can help address. What are you doing and how can we help you address these problems? And so suddenly they're much more receptive to us because we're working with them. They know all of these problems already. It's not like it's some sort of surprise. But the fact that we're coming to them and sitting with them and listening to them, and they say, well, it's really complicated for this reason, that reason. And we're saying, well, those are your internal problems. We can come at it from a different perspective. Actually, if you are struggling to build teachers' houses, then why don't you tell us, maybe give us £10,000 towards it, and that can help us fundraise to it because we can say the community are contributing, the town is contributing, everybody is willing. Will people in the UK, in Europe, will they also contribute? And so it becomes much more of a partnership. But at the same time, we're talking to the community development officers who are saying, well, if you want to do this, you need to talk to that person and that person and that person, people we might not ever have come across before. And so we're in a room with the town economist, the town agricultural officer, the town education officer, the town planner, the town community development officers. We're all there having the meetings and sharing our ideas and sharing the challenges. And out of that communication comes the solutions. So we don't go in there with solutions. We go in there with ideas.
With questions.
With questions, concepts. And they go, yeah, that could work if you approached it from this direction.
This is, to me, true inclusion. So, that you're listening to all the voices, you're bringing them all together, and then, you help where help is needed, but not in a way that, creates future dependency, but it's more like help for self-help, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, collaboration is essential because you don't. I think it was Julius Nyerere who said, you cannot develop a person; they can only develop themselves. So, on that understanding, you need to give people the resources to develop themselves.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing is just trying to light the fuse to supply whatever is needed to help people help themselves.
I love that. Sounds very much like coaching.
Yes.
Do you sometimes get requests for from junior people, students, people who want to intern with your organization? Is there anything that you would advise a younger person? I work a lot with students, like master level students at the moment, and some of them might want to go into a development area. So is there any tip that you would have for them?
If you want to go and work in this area, I think the best thing to do is go and visit the country first and spend some time with the people. Try and find, sit in cafes, talk to people, break down the barriers, break down your misconceptions that you have with you, your own biases, and talk to people. Talk to talk to farmers, talk to shopkeepers, and listen to their answers.
And do you offer internships?
Rarely. Sometimes we can do. It really depends because we're a very small team, and we're not always sure what we're going to be able to offer an intern as a long-term position.
Yeah.
Because I think I said at the beginning, we're still making it up as we go along. So whilst we've got, plans and things, how interns fit in on that is always difficult. Of course, if they speak Swahili, that's another thing entirely, because then they can go out to Tanzania and they could do some hands-on research. or monitoring and evaluation type
Yeah.
work.
We'll keep that in mind
Yeah,
because the students in this course, they come from everywhere. So
brilliant.
maybe there's somebody who speaks Swahili or
I
other
suppose you can
similar
get these
languages.
things in your ears now that translate for you.
Uh,
So that,
I
you know,
heard
that's
of that, but I don't trust it yet.
yeah, I'm not quite there. I'm not prepared to spend £100 and get it wrong.
I'd rather, still have people learning languages, but maybe, I'm just old. That I spent so much time training French vocabulary. I can't believe, now this is all just given to you. This is
So
not
true.
okay, Julian. It's not okay. Right. Well, I saw today a interesting post of you on LinkedIn, and I always love these stories that you're telling, about, for example, that with £100, you can build like a whole set of toilets, for example, because it makes it very tangible. And, whenever we had you in our RDP meetings, I found it very moving because, we could see the fruit of that little donation that every one of us does per year. We usually donate like a pound, dollar of every invoice that we send out, or we can give a little more if we want to. But it's very tangible what you're doing. It's something we can see, where we can see the effect of our work immediately, which is not always the case when you deal with the corporate world. So, do you do a lot of like reach? Do you reach out on social media? How do you gain other donors that do not come through like an organization like ours?
A lot of our fundraising comes from writing to trusts and foundations,
All right. Uh-huh.
um, because we need to get some bigger money for certain projects,
Yeah.
and so we get lots from there. But they are always restricted funding to a specific project. And what's fantastic about you guys is that yours is unrestricted. That
Hmm.
means that we can decide where it's needed most and spend it.
Yeah.
I know a couple of years ago there was a huge demand for bunk beds.
Yeah.
And so we just bought bunk beds and bunk beds and bunk beds. And the impact of those bunk beds is huge. And they were mainly targeted at the girls. So girls are coming maybe 10, 15 kilometers every day to school and back again. They're leaving home 4, 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark, sometimes past hyenas and other animals that really you don't want to be meeting.
Hmm.
Then they get to school tired. Then you have to clean the school. Then you have your studies. Then you have to go back again. The girls are absolutely tired, and it's very difficult to get your homework done and learn. So by providing bunk beds into the dormitories, the girls could stay there. They could stay there for months on end, and enjoy the interaction of their students. They can have debating classes, and really get to learn in a safe environment for them. So it's a small thing, a bunk bed, but a huge impact to those girls because actually it means they're going to get a secondary education,
Hmm.
and the secondary education is so important. It's what's going to determine the rest of your life.
Do
So
you?
yeah, unrestricted funding like that has been fantastic, and through Relocate the Profit, we have done lots and lots of little projects
Mm.
that have just made such a difference.
Do you also help them with tertiary education once they got the secondary education?
Well, there are government funds available. You can apply for grants to do that.
Hmm.
We have very, very few sponsorships for
Hmm.
students,
Hmm.
um, because it's effectively about 1,000, £1,500 a year
Hmm.
to sponsor one student. And how do you select one student when there are hundreds of eligible students?
Hmm.
So it's something that we try not to do is sponsor individuals
Hmm.
where possible because it creates unfairness.
Yeah, I understand. Awesome. Julian, what is coming up for you next? Big plans?
We're just starting a project that is called Farming for Regeneration,
Hmm.
and this is a project we're doing an 18-month pilot, and it's in an area where the farmers have been farming very badly, uh, I think that's wrong. They're not. It's not that they've been farming badly. They have come from other parts of Babati, and they're in an area where their farming techniques don't work because the soil is very different.
Okay.
And so they're doing their best, but they're not getting the produce that they want, the yields. And so they're using more chemical fertilizers, and that, of course, is further damaging the soil. So we're starting a project that is both permaculture and organic farming on a demonstration plot, and we're going to be showing people how they can farm in a different way to reduce the costs by having organic inputs rather than chemical inputs, by intercropping much more, by using mulch. And we've also got this arrangement with the organization who's going to be providing us with the training. They have learnt how to mix, for example, rabbit urine with neem leaves.
Okay.
That's just an example.
Yeah.
And what it does is it helps change the balance between the microorganisms in the soil to make it more positive.
Hmm.
It encourages growth. So we're just going to go off and learn this in January coming.
Okay.
But it's a very exciting project because if it's successful, and we expect it to be successful, we'll run it out over the next 5 years across all of these communities that we're working with, and it will have a huge, we hope, impact on their ability to diversify their income, stabilize their food security, and make sure that all of their kids are eating all of the time, so that food and income don't become barriers to the education of their children. So that's one project that we've got.
Oh, that sounds
Um,
exciting.
that
How
is, it
many of
is.
these communities are we talking about?
Well, this is in 4 communities,
Okay. Uh-huh.
and that's over I suppose it's 20, 30 kilometers across, so quite sizable pieces of land.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Um, but we've also got at Christmas our Big Give Christmas challenge,
Mm-hmm.
and this is to help raise money for the toilets at the Sendo Primary School.
Mm-hmm.
The toilets there are particularly bad. They're long drop toilets. They are made out of cement floor, and urine and cement, that's a corrosive relationship. So at some point, the floor will collapse. And you just have to hope that the children aren't in it at the time. The doors, some of the doors are broken. When you shut the door, it's very dark inside. There's no running water, so you can't clean your cubicle. There's
Mm-hmm.
no facilities whatsoever for girls. There's no hand washing facilities. So the kids are fearful of using the toilets.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that fear, they don't eat and drink enough because they don't want to go to the toilet. And by so doing, they are getting dehydrated. That then leads to urinary tract infections. That then leads to hospital trips, means they're missing school anyway.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm.
If they do use the toilets, they may well get diarrhea. I think in the school there's 487 kids and 440 cases of kids being sick over the last 12 months.
Mm.
So it's not, it's going to happen to kids using the toilets. But, so if you get diarrhea, you really do have to use the toilets. You've got no choice.
Yeah.
So lots of toilet related problems. So what we're trying to do is build new boys and new girls toilets that meet their needs, that have been designed by students, and will completely solve this problem. So, and the exciting thing about the Big Give, which starts on the 2nd of December, is that there's a £10,000 match funding pot. So every pound that is donated is met with a donation from the matching pot.
Oh, okay. Great.
So that's
That's
very
great.
exciting.
Yeah. And we're definitely gonna link to that in the show notes.
Yes.
Also, Julian, if anyone wants to ask you more questions, get, more detailed information, is it okay if people contact you directly on LinkedIn if they refer to the Red Couch Talk, for example,
Absolutely. LinkedIn or my email address.
or email?
Yeah,
Okay, so can I put your email ID as well in the...
absolutely.
Oh, that's
I mean,
great.
we're always happy to talk with people because part of what we're doing is hopefully changing a small portion of the world. And the more people who learn about it, the easier it is to spread the word.
And generally, I guess, also just spreading the word, like on social media, that could be really helpful for you.
Always helpful,
Yeah. Okay.
because it's interesting. You never know who you're talking to,
That's
or
true.
who you never know who reads things, and it might be three people down the line. You go, oh, well, my grandfather used to work in Tanzania. I'd love to go and see where he worked, and I'd love to come and visit you and sponsor something.
Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, there's always connections, surprisingly.
Julian, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
inviting me.
please keep up the good work.
Will do, most
I will
definitely.
admire you from afar. And I think, I'm also going to share this with the students because I'm sure there's one or two who could be really interesting also as a, like a sounding board or for sharing information. Like one of my mentees is a social media manager. So I'm sure she gets excited when she hears more about it.
Yes.
Not sure if she speaks Swahili, she's from Zambia, but
Well, they do speak some Swahili in northern Zambia.
yeah, so
You never
maybe,
know.
maybe she does and I just don't know.
Yeah. Sorry, the other thing that I think is really important, and it's part of this journey that we've been on, is the whole decolonization of the world that we're working in.
Absolutely, yeah.
And our movement into co-production is all part of that process of shifting the power away from us
Yeah,
towards the community, towards the local leaders.
yeah,
And we're still struggling a little bit in terms of we need to keep financial control over things. So we do
yeah,
know that we retain power when perhaps we shouldn't.
yeah,
But when donors give us money to spend wisely,
yeah,
I want to make sure that I'm still spending it wisely. So that's why we kind of retain that element of
yeah,
control on the
yeah,
fund. But
yeah,
yeah, shifting the power is a very important part of our work.
yeah. I love it. Just love everything that you said. Thank you so much, Julian.
Thank you.
And yeah, all the best to you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.